Okay, next we have a tweet that's replying to Levels, who is basically saying that thank God MCP is dead, which is not true, but he's replying to the CTO of Perplexity saying that they're moving away from MCPs and instead utilizing APIs and CLIs. And we have talked about this before, like what the difference is exactly, but Levels' argument is that it's all dumb abstractions that AI doesn't need because AIs are as smart as humans, so they can just use what was already there, which is APIs. And that is interesting. There is a breakdown of like what do APIs provide you that MCPs don't. There's also that piece that we talked about, and I've mentioned a few times now, which is like Cloudflare changed all their tools because they had thousands of tools available in their MCP, but it was bloating a lot of context. And the more you bloat the context, the less the AI can actually like utilize the context that it's given. So they just changed their MCP tools to just be search and execute so that it just searches for what it needs. And it's more of a dynamic context system, which we've been talking about for a few months. But what Fatih here says, and he works at PlanetScale, is that they're not dead. They are a must-have for any enterprise installation in companies with hundreds of employees. I also thought MCP was dead, but you're thinking like an indie hacker. Assuming you're working at a company with 50 people, people install remote MCP servers, use OAuth, and then are done. Everyone is authenticated, so you don't need to fiddle around with CLIs. It's also secure. So that's an interesting point. And he also brings up Cursor's plugin marketplace, which was very hype when it came out and like connected to Figma and all these different things. I do think that's a great point he has, where it's like you don't have to fiddle around with CLIs, which essentially means like generating API keys, and you kind of have to do like CLI login. But that is kind of OAuth is how you set it up. But it's more of like up to the CLI creator's choice of like how you authenticate, whereas MCP is more kind of clear that you have to use OAuth. Not necessarily though, like you can build MCP in any way you want, is my understanding, the authentication piece. But for example, at work, like we have been using the connections tab inside of Claude for connecting our Jira and our Atlassian. And it really is just like sign in with OAuth, and you don't even have to create an MCP file, an mcp.json anymore in your local Claude. Like it just handles it all remotely through Claude Code. Obviously, if you're using something like OpenCode, you probably, I don't know if they have a piece like that, or you might just have to use a file, but it is like very nuanced. It is very like ergonomics based, all of them achieve the same thing, but in software, like that's such a big problem and just such a reality, is that like you can solve the same problem in a lot of ways, but focusing on ergonomics and scale is very important. And it does make sense with MCP, like a global protocol, that you can build things that more people can onboard to, and just you want to make it as easy as possible for your employees to do the menial work and let the AI take care of the other things so that they can really drive forward the big cognitive stuff of decision making.